John? I did not want to watch. Oh, I get it. I get the reference. Yep. When Ichi finally discovers what the world means to him, basically, or what his motivation actually is, or how he understands people, or his urges. Yeah, I did not want to watch Ichi the Killer. That is why I wanted to watch Ichi the Killer. Nice. It is quite possible it might just end up being you and I. Honestly, Uncle Pete is is not able to make it. He had messaged me and let me know, but he said to say hello to everyone. He's sorry he couldn't make it because he said life got in the way, but that's fine. Um, so at the moment, just you and me, man. Which that's fine. We can talk about Ichi the Killer and the Collector all day, and then whatever else we feel like talking about. And actually, if anyone else ends up showing up at some point, I'll rehash this for them probably at the end of the stream. But thinking about changing, actually, this is what I want to do. I want to change what we're doing for the next one in 2 weeks. And instead of doing a live stream, I want to do a watch party instead. What do you think of that? Because Shudder just announced, I think it was this week. No, I think it was last week actually. Shudder announced that they now are compatible with the Google Chrome extension called Scener, where basically you can host a watch party. And I tested it with my buddy Rich, who pops in the chat every now and then. And it's pretty easy to use. It's pretty user friendly. All people need is whatever streaming service you're going to end up using. Everyone who attends the watch party has to be, have an account with whatever that streaming service is. So if everyone has like Shudder or everyone has Netflix or whatever we end up choosing, we can just, we can pick from there. So the way it would be is I would set up the watch party and be in control of the remote is kind of what the program says. And then I would just, pick whatever film. And the way I was thinking about doing it, and everyone can do it their own way. If they want to show up and watch the movie for the first time with the watch party, that'd be great. But also if they want to do what I assume you would probably want to do and what I'll do, which is watch it ahead of time, take some notes on it, and then watch it again with the watch party, and then just kind of like make comments as the film's unfolding. And that way we can see each other if we want to. We can talk, like audibly talk to each other if we want to. But there's also a chat function, so people can also decide if they don't want to be seen or heard, they can just, type in chat still. It would be fun. Wow. I didn't know that was able to be purchased, Paul, an Ichi the Killer t-shirt. That's pretty awesome. So I do need to know, Paul, what was on the Ichi the Killer poster? Is it like, I would hope it's my favorite one, which is like the cover of the old DVD that I have, which is like the red background with Kakihara's face, and he's kind of like looking up a little bit, because that is such a cool look. It's such a great, iconic picture for that film. Yeah, take a look into that. And I'll do one of those announcement videos for it as well, talking about how we'll do a watch party for the next one instead of a live stream. And it'll also be more relaxed. And the other thing is, it won't be a situation where I'm just sitting here reading what you're writing and talking about it. It'll be like more in real time, and we can have exchange, because this is on a delay too. And Scener, if we're doing that as a watch party, there's no delay. We can like in real time just go back and forth while we're watching the film through our computers. It'd be amazing. But I say we'll do that for the next one and see if everyone really likes it. And if not, I mean, we can go back to this, or we can switch them up and do one this way and then the next one's the Scener way, and just kind of go back and forth. We'll see what people like. Okay, Paul. That one is just his face. Yeah, that'd be an awesome poster to have. It's pretty cool. I mean, Kakihara's look is pretty iconic from that film, obviously because of what they call the Glasgow smile that he has, but also, his little pins, or his little, I think it's like kind of like safety pins in a way, and his, scars on his face, but also his outfits. One of the things I love about Kakihara in Ichi the Killer is his outfits are so cool. They're so vibrant. They're like kind of not stylish, but stylish at the same time, if that makes any sense. I love his outfits. Love them. Same one for the t-shirt in black and white print. Oh, that's cool too. Yeah, I would like the t-shirt as well. That's awesome. Strange that it's not well, it's yeah. It's strange that it's not Ichi on the cover because it's Ichi the Killer. I think part of the reason for that being that Kakihara ends up being the strongest character in Ichi the Killer and the most interesting character that people kind of identify with. Well, okay, I don't want to say identify with because of who he is and what he does, but that people kind of have most interest in. Like he's the most vibrant of the characters, and especially because Ichi, I think a lot of people don't like him as much because he also is so meek a lot of the time, and cowers a lot. But yeah, also Tadanobu Asano, the guy who plays Kakihara, is like people have said over the years. I don't know if this is true or not, but I hear all the time he's like the Johnny Depp of Japan. So I think he was like the big name, so that's why he was on the front. I never read the manga. I have it on my iPad, but I think the movie was just volume 1. Yeah, and there were subsequent films, Paul. Actually, there was Ichi, what was it? Ichi the Killer Episode 0 was another film that came out. And then 1-Ichi, which I actually have 1-Ichi on DVD. I haven't watched it yet. I've had it for a long time. That's one of those movies I just have to get to. So yeah, eventually. If you do end up reading the manga though, Paul, put a comment on one of my videos and let me know what your thoughts on it were, especially in comparison to Ichi the Killer, because at least one of the differences, I'm sure there's a bunch of differences, but one of the differences I read about is that Kakihara in the manga is not like some good-looking guy who's like a cool dude. He's like not good-looking and like kind of gross, and yeah, very different. Similar to this blue bigger face, BU bigger face, or but bigger face. Okay, got it. Outfits are retro 70s. Yeah, but like super cool retro 70s. There's like crappy retro 70s and like nerdy, dorky, weird retro 70s. And then there's cool retro 70s that just like endures. Like it doesn't even matter what time period it is. Like people are going to watch Ichi the Killer like hopefully if the world still exists 50 years from now and look at that and be like that's some stylish cool stuff he's wearing. I remember when I first saw the tongue cut scene when the camera zooms his mouth, I was like, what the fuck? Never seen anything like this in a movie before. I watched it early 2000s. Yeah, same here, Paul. I remember being a little bit squeamish when that scene first came up, and I think the first time I saw the film was like around 2005-ish, because this is what happened, a friend who was into some more fringe cinema and was starting to get me into Japanese films. He had handed it off to me. He gave me the DVD and he's like, watch this movie. He didn't tell me anything about it. He's like, just watch this movie. I think you might dig it. But don't watch it when anyone else is around. Wait until it's like nighttime in your room and it's just you. Because if anyone walks in while you're watching this film, trust me, you don't want someone to. So I watched it and then I was just like, first of all, I was like, man, this is crazy and intense and brutal. And if I've seen this, I feel like I can watch anything in a film. Then the other thing was, I'm glad I made sure that it was just me watching the film. But yeah, that tongue scene is pretty crazy. But I would say that, I mean, the tongue scene's crazy because it's so close up and it looks real. But I would say the scene of the guy hanging from the hooks through his skin, and then the hot tempura oil on his back and on his head, like for me, that's the most intense and the most brutal. It's something. I didn't quite get the ending. What do you mean by that, John? This is what he looks like in the comic. Pretty similar. Okay. It is possible that these two films were too intense for many in the group. Yeah, and that's possible. I mean, Uncle Pete, when he let me know that he wasn't going to be able to make it tonight, he said that coincidentally he also was not able to finish watching Ichi the Killer either because it was too much for him. It wasn't the kills or the brutality or anything. It was actually the rape scenes, which I understand there are a lot of people who have a hard time with that. I may have had even more of a hard time watching that if I hadn't already seen the film like I said, like 15 years ago, basically, when I was a lot younger. I was a lot more open to extreme cinema. I mean, I'm still kind of open to extreme cinema, but I'm a little bit softer watching that stuff than I used to be, for sure. But the fact that I've already seen Ichi the Killer, like, none of that stuff really affected me because I've been there, you know? I don't know if that makes sense or not. Also, tongue scene in The Collector. Oh, that's right. Both these films we're talking about have a tongue scene. That's an interesting parallel. I didn't even think about that, Paul. Good point. Well, almost gets her tongue cut when she screams. Yeah, and in The Collector, that was kind of like crazy. I actually was like, ooh, I don't remember when I last saw this film. Does he actually cut this tongue off? Because this is looking pretty tense. Yeah, the Yakuza boss hanging. Like, that's such a nuts film. Or a nuts scene. Okay, so John, as far as the end of the film, when you're saying you didn't quite get the ending, what portion of the ending are you referring to? Like, what were you not getting about it? Um, I mean, it is a crazy film, and there are certain things that don't totally make sense. I agree with that. But maybe I saw something in the ending. I don't know. When Ichi kicked our hero in the head, there was no wound on the head after he fell from the roof. That's true. That is a good point. And I did notice that as well. I was just like, but that's a continuity issue. I'm pretty sure that was not intentional, that was continuity issue. So, but the different colored scene at the end with Kakihara like in a bathtub or something, and then his mouth like like drops way down. I felt that was kind of like an afterlife is what they were getting at with that. I don't know if you guys felt the same way. That was kind of an interesting way to end things. Who was the man with the kids as the crow flew by? I don't know. It's a good question. It seemed random to me. To me, it didn't mean anything. Just like you're kind of asking that question. Like, I really don't know. But one of the things I did want to talk about with this film is one of the overall things that the guy who created the manga had talked about in interviews, Hideo Yamamoto. He has said that Ichi the Killer is a love story at its core, and a love story from the aspect of sadism and masochism, because Kakihara is on one side of the spectrum of extreme masochism, and Ichi is on the other side of the spectrum of extreme sadism. And when they finally meet, it's basically like an S&M love story because they've met their ultimates, where Kakihara is ready to receive that extreme sadism, and Ichi is willing to dish it out. And obviously, like, it's also interesting when you think about that and you watch the film with that in mind, because I did. You see interesting parallels with that. Like, a prime example is the scene where Ichi goes to see the woman who had been beaten and raped when he watched it happen, and he wants her to kind of recount the beating, and that's like his sadistic height of pleasure at that moment. Then right after they do that scene, they cut to the scene where Kakihara cuts his tongue off. Now, as far as the story had gone at that point, that was Kakihara's height of masochistic pleasure. So it was this parallel of their heights of pleasure within S&M. And then another thing to point out is that throughout the entire time, Kakihara is basically working up this scenario that he thinks that Ichi's like this mastermind, and he's playing cat and mouse, and he's just like giving him clues that like he's coming for him in the end, which is making Kakihara excited because he's missing the the pain that was inflicted on him by his boss Anjo, who's no longer alive. and everyone else has, disappointed him. So he's looking forward to that ultimate pain that's coming, and it just builds itself up. So much so that when he's at the apartment complex before they get to the roof and he meets Ichi, he's saying that he's scared. He's like, "Oh, I'm excited, I'm scared." But the way he's saying it, he's giddy, almost like it's like a first date or something. So it's very interesting to watch it with that in mind, knowing how it was intended by Hideo Yamamoto. So sorry, that took a little bit. I'll read the comments. I had no idea what that bathtub scene was all about. Yeah, and like I said, I figure it's just like an afterlife type thing. Maybe that man was a symbol of an uncaring public. That's not a bad theory, John. It really is not a bad theory. I could definitely see that as like extreme violence and craziness going on in the city, and people are just kind of like turning their back to it, ignoring that stuff. Yeah, I could see that. People just go on with their business because they're just like, hey, that doesn't concern me. I've heard that live theme mentioned before. Okay. Oh, the love theme. Okay, got it. Yeah. And I don't know, do you see it really? I was seeing this as a subtle comedy. That's okay. So that's interesting you bring that up, John, about it being subtle comedy. So I do think that I don't know if it doesn't play to me as necessarily like a comedic aspect of the film, but for me, I think there are it's approached in a light manner, filmmaking wise. And I think it's a combination of the music that gets used that's more light and kind of like goofy at times, and also the goofy, weird characters that show up and are kind of like zany and funny, and then also the camera work that Takashi Miike has in the film. There's a lot of interesting angles that feel off kilter and a little weird, which I think that, in conjunction with everything else that I just talked about, really helps to offset the experience of brutality and experience of tension, and how scary some of these brutal situations could be in the film. Yeah, so I kind of connect with what you're saying in those respects. Another thing is that just literally one of those moments where I'm like thinking about something and then I lost it, but it's oh yes, I was gonna say another thing that kind of goes to maybe the bit of what you're talking about with the comedy element, the arterial spraying when people get cut in their neck areas. That is over the top and ridiculous, and it does become comedic in a way because the force of the blood coming out, how far it goes, how much of it there is, and then especially at the end with the ex-cop who gets his throat slit, when he's just like, there's so much blood just coming out, and he's like walking, like trying to walk towards his kid, and it just keeps coming and coming and coming, and you're like, there's no possible way he could still be walking with this going on. It's just like ridiculous. And that's one of the things, is like Miike does ridiculous, and he does it a lot in his films. He certainly does have films that he doesn't do that in, like, I don't know, like 13 Assassins, from what I hear, like Blade of the Immortal, stuff like that. But a lot of his films, he goes over the top. He does ridiculous. He does crazy, zany, wacky. He does a lot of that stuff. I mean, like, Dead Alive, he does a lot of that in there. All three of the Dead Alives, those are real good examples of it. If my girl beat me like that, I would run for my life. Me as well, John. But, it's interesting because Kakihara, like, you see him repeatedly throughout the film looking for someone to be that next person to inflict the pain he's looking for. And with that woman, test that out for a little bit. I think she used to be his boss's girlfriend, I think is what it was. Anjo's girlfriend. So, I don't know. But it's interesting to see, like, all these situations where he's coming up against having pain inflicted, and it just ends up being a disappointment until the very end when he gets the penultimate, which is not the disappointment of Ichi ending his life. There was a remastered release a couple of years ago. Ooh, I bet that looked a lot better, like real crisp. Because the copy on, wherever they got it from for Shudder, not the best looking. I assume the remaster is probably a lot cleaner. Last couple of Miike movies I saw were great. Oh, good, Paul. Nice. And do you mean last couple as in the last couple he had released, or just the last couple you happened to watch? And he's done so many movies. It's insane. I know at one point he was doing like 7 movies a year, which is it's like unheard of. Lesson of the Evil is great. Okay, I'll have to make sure I check that out. And Blade of the Immortal. That's been on my list. I've really been wanting to check out Blade of the Immortal because I've heard really good things numerous times about that film. I just haven't gotten into it yet. I have First Love. Haven't seen it yet. Okay, let me know when you do see that. What do you think? I haven't seen it, but Miike, a prolific director, a movie every year. Yeah. He's a machine, man. Talking about Ichi, what's up? Yeah, what's up, Rich? How you doing, man? That was the boss's girl. Okay, got it. He also did Visitor Q. Yeah, you want to talk about, like, crazy movies? Yeah, Visitor Q is nuts. I have seen that film. Actually, Ichi the Killer was the first Takashi Miike film I ever saw. And then I think after that I watched Deadly Outlaw Rekka, and then the 3 Dead or Alives, and then Audition, and then Visitor Q, and then hit up other ones like Izo, Gozu, Ley Lines, Shinjuku Triad Society. Goes on and on and on. I own a lot of Miike films, but that doesn't even put a dent in all the films that he's actually made. Definitely check Lessons of the Evil. Okay, got it, Paul. Yeah, I'll have to look for that. Yes, Rich. 13 Assassins is really good. I own it, and I need to rewatch it. Because, yeah, it's awesome. I also want to rewatch Sukiyaki Western Django, which I believe was his first English language film that he ever did. Was it? Wait. Or maybe Imprint technically was. I can't remember which one came first. It may have been Imprint, actually. The end fight scene in 13 Assassins blew me away, like an hour long. From what I remember, it was nuts. Like I said, I need to rewatch that film though. So any other stuff about Ichi the Killer? Let's think. Is there anything in particular you guys really wanted to bring up about Ichi? Is there anything you wanted me to weigh in on? My thoughts or reactions to certain things in the film. I think the biggest thing for me that I wanted to throw out on this was that whole thing about the love, about it being ultimately a love story, because that really blew me away. It was a very interesting idea and an interesting concept to have in your mind when you're watching the film. So I really thought that was cool. But yeah, the film's been banned in places. I understand why. I don't think it plays as being as brutal and as messed up now as it did back in 2001, but that's because since then we've been through so much stuff like the torture porn phase of film, which, pushed things past where Ichi the Killer is as a film, but it's still tough for people. It's still a film that a lot of people won't even watch or they bail on, and I understand that. That's fine. IMDb has Ichi listed as a action comedy crime. Action? Yes. Comedy. We were talking about how I see it kind of, and crime definitely. And that's another thing is Miike does a lot of stuff with Yakuza. Like, he loves using Yakuza in his films, which I think is interesting. It works. And John, you pointing out the genres that IMDb tags on Ichi the Killer makes me remember. I wanted to say this. I don't really think it's horror, honestly. I mean, there are horrific things that happen, but I think it's more in the vein of something like Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer or Maniac. Like, I know those kind of get pulled into the horror genre and into the horror community, but I don't think they're really horror. They just have horrific stuff. It's kind of like that horror adjacent category in my mind. 2 points in my life before watching Ichi and after. That's true, Rich. Yep, that's true. And I mean, like, it's so vivid in my mind the first time I watched it and what I felt like experiencing that film and my thoughts afterwards. So it's, yeah, you're kind of right. I know you're joking, but you're kind of right. He was supposed to direct The Outsider with Tom Hardy. It was going to be his first Hollywood movie, but then he dropped out. Then Tom Hardy did too. Wow. Interesting. I didn't know that, Paul. That's crazy. I mean, I'm kind of glad that Mike didn't really get Hollywood, because Hollywood's really destroyed some good directors from other countries. It's a meat grinder, man. Hollywood, it really is. Another director with Jared Leto, never watched it. Lesson of the Evil reminded me a lot. Battle Royale. Ooh, really, Paul? Oh, man, I like Battle Royale quite a bit. Battle Royale's a fun flick. I haven't seen the second one, though. I need to do that. But you really, I mean, I was going to try and check out Lesson of the Evil, but now that you said it reminds you of Battle Royale, I'm even more interested. I went through 30 Days of Disturbing Movies last August. Ichi was a walk in the park. Yeah, John. Well, it's like I was saying, Ichi was insane and crazy and unbelievably brutal at at the time when it came out in 2001. But since then, there's been so much more that's just gone above that, above and beyond. I mean, people still talk about Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer being unbelievably disturbing and like hard to watch. But watch that in comparison to a lot of the stuff now. It's not even close. It's not horror, definitely not. Disturbing would be a better word. Yes, agreed, John. Definitely agree with that. Can you list the movies you remember, John? There you go. From 30 Days of Disturbing. Yeah. I went through some banned horror movie lists. And what's interesting, Paul, about the banned horror movie lists is there are movies on those lists sometimes that you'll watch and you're like, how is this not banned? And then you can look at something that's not banned in whatever country you're looking at and be like, this other movie is clearly worse. It is clearly worse. And if this one's on the list, then why isn't this one on the list? That type of stuff happens all the time. Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer stuck with me. It is definitely one of the most disturbing movies I've seen. Really? Okay. I think, for me personally, I find Maniac more disturbing than Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. But I see what I could see where you're coming from on it. I also like Maniac as a film more in general. August Underground. Yeah, I think that's pretty much all you have to say, John. August Underground. Poughkeepsie Tapes stuck with me too. See, I still haven't seen Poughkeepsie Tapes. I need to. It's literally in my Netflix DVD queue, and it's pretty close to the top. Subconscious Cruelty, a Serbian film. Oof. I've not seen a Serbian film. I don't know if I will. I mean, maybe at one point, but I don't know. It just didn't sound that appealing to me, honestly. Video Nasties list from the UK. All the horror movies that were banned over there. Go through that. Yeah. I can't tell you how many times I've done movie reviews on my channel, and when I'm doing the research for them, it's like, was on the UK Video Nasties list. I'm like, okay. I feel like they put a lot on their list of banned films. I like the Maniac remake with Elijah Wood. Paul, that's another one I haven't seen yet that I need to get to. Also in my Netflix DVD queue list. But in all fairness to me, my Netflix DVD queue list is maxed out. It will not let you add past 500 films, and I have 500 in there. So I gotta watch one, to put a new one in. Or just get rid of one. Take it out of there. Great soundtrack, too. Oh, really? For the remake, Paul, of Maniac. Now, I'm even more interested. But they banned the Evil Dead, too. Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's my point, Paul. Like, Evil Dead... Come on. Like, it's... Yeah. This video nasties list, especially when you watch it nowadays, you're just like, how prude are these people? Or were these people at that time? Evil Dead was banned until 1990. Yeah. I'm reading all the titles. Don't worry, John. You had also sent me the list on Twitter, John. So a lot of Europe. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, doesn't pertain to the conversation, but real quick, I want to throw this out so you guys know. Bio and Tegno, who shows up in the chat every now and then, has done a new banner, graphics banner for me for my YouTube channel. So if you notice that, it has my name and it's kind of like an interesting style, and it looks really cool. It's really good. That was Bio and Tegno who did that. So that was very, very nice of him. Did a great job too. Martyrs. Yep, Martyrs. Martyrs stuck with me. Martyrs is probably the most intense, most brutal film I've sat through, and I was getting upset when I was watching it from the standpoint of how brutal and relentless it was. I was getting mad that I believed that there wasn't going to be a point to it. And I even, like, I was watching it with a friend the first time I saw it, and I remember saying to them, turning to them and saying, there better be a point to all this brutality and how relentless it is, because otherwise I'm going to be really mad that I watched this film, because it will have felt like just enduring, really, literally, like, just like enduring the film just to come to like a crappy end. But there was a real point to it. And then when that happened at the end of the film, I was like, oh, okay. Well, then I thought it was a good film. Stranger Things, the French version of Martyrs. Oh, yeah. Oh, John, of course. The French version of Martyrs. I have not seen the American version of Martyrs, and I've heard that it's not so great. Just like I went through a big Japanese film phase, I also went through a big French extremity film phase. Your banner reminds me of... Oh, Stranger Things is what the banner reminds you of. Okay, yeah, I can see that, Paul. Yeah, definitely. It is like 80s inspired for sure. I've only seen the French one. That's the way it should be, Paul. Only seeing the French Martyrs. That is the way it should be. Yeah, it was annoying at the end. You didn't even get to hear what she whispered in the woman's ear. I know. But it was still good. Like, the point that they're making with that, it was still good. But yeah, I when I watched it, I was also like, What'd she say? Oh, Irreversible. Yeah, so that's one I have not seen yet, John. Everyone has told me it's a tough one. I do plan to watch it at some point, but I don't know. The French have a way of mixing sex and violence. Yeah. I've heard that Climax, the Gaspar Noé film Climax, is like that as well. And some people really cannot handle it. I haven't seen it yet. I really need to. Switchblade Romance. I haven't even heard of that one. French movie. Interesting. Okay. I mean, so for me with the French, extreme like French films, obviously I thought Martyrs was one of the best ones, but I also really liked High Tension. I thought High Tension was great as well. I remember I watched like Frontiers, and like I thought it was fine, but I thought it was also kind of like overblown. I still haven't seen Inside. Inside is one I definitely wanted to watch, but didn't get to. Enter the Void, last Gaspar Noé movie I remember watching. Was that my last one? Yeah, I think so. Enter the Void's whacked, man. It's interesting, though. Climax had great visuals, but the actors and storyline bored me to death. Ooh. Is it long, too? Because I feel like Noé's films are typically pretty long. Oh, Paul, I have seen Raw, Paul. It is good. So Raw is good. It's not what you like. It's not as shocking and crazy and disturbing as you would think, based off all the press it got for that. So you'll be all right. You'll be all right watching it. It will be a walk in the park, especially with what people have kind of like worked up for the film Raw. It's definitely worth seeing. I thought it was interesting. I see why people see it as disturbing and messed up because it is, but it's not. I don't know. I've just seen kind of similar stuff before, so I was just like, it's not that new or anything. Yeah. Okay, so Climax is like an hour and a half. Okay, that's easy. It's in my Netflix DVD queue to watch. Yeah. Okay, yeah, and since you bring that up, John, that Ichi was 2 hours long, a little bit more than 2 hours long, it's too long. I mean, do you guys feel the same way? Like, I feel like it's too long. I mean, it's a good film, but it feels like it's the 2 hours. Yeah, and I don't like that aspect of it. And then, yeah, so if you guys have anything else about Ichi, because if not, let's move on to The Collector and talk about that. It was too long because during the third act was dragging. 100%. 100% it was dragging during the third act. The third act is the most drawn out portion of the film, which should not be the case. Definitely not. Okay. Paul wants to move on to Collector. Let's do it, man. I'm down. Initial thoughts, feelings, anything you want to say about it? I do have an interesting tidbit about it, though. It... Well, I want to see what you guys say first. Because John in particular, I think, might know the bit of information I was going to throw out about it. Collector didn't hit my fancy. Okay. Yeah, it didn't... And here's the thing, John. For the most part, the Collector did not, as you were saying, hit my fancy either, really. Now, I remember enjoying it the first time I saw it many years ago, but yeah, it was very lackluster to me for the most part when I just watched it this past week. But please expand upon that. What don't you think you really enjoyed about it, John? And then I'll share with you my thoughts on why I didn't really like it that much. Collector movies are fun. I think I remember liking The Collection more than The Collector, but now I want to rewatch The Collection because I watched Collector. The use of colors, blue-green, was great. Yes, yeah, color usage in the film I do like. I agree with you on that one, John. Okay. So here's my question, Paul. I see that you're saying that the third one should be out soon, but I couldn't find anything about when. Like, I found many things saying that it's coming, and I found some stuff saying 2020, but I couldn't find any definitives. So, do you have a source, Paul, that has confirmed a release date for The Collected? Because I definitely would watch it, especially since I've seen the first two. Some bad acting, but fun movies. Yes, that's one of the things I was going to throw into the mix of what didn't really do it for me with The Collector. Yeah, there's bad acting. Bad acting. The other thing is the directing is kind of amateur. There's a lot of amateur stuff that ends up going on with the directing aspect of it. It's I don't know if you guys noticed it, but especially in the beginning of the film, it kind of gets better as it goes on. But the beginning, there are a lot of rough cuts in the scenes, and there are also a lot of scenes when there are more characters in the beginning. There are a lot of scenes where they cut to a scene and it immediately starts with someone coming at the camera. And it's numerous times, and it just keeps happening. It's just like, cut to scene, someone's coming at the camera. Cut to scene, someone's coming at the camera. Cut to scene, someone's coming at the camera. It's like, stop. Let's get some variety. But amateur. But it makes sense because, what's his name? Dunstan. The guy with last name Dunstan. He who directed it, I think that was his first directing gig, basically. So it makes sense that it was very amateurish. First movie's better. Okay, I'll have to watch the collection and see what I think, but I hear you, Paul. Collector and the later Saw films have Marcus Dunstan in common. Yes. Yeah. Dunstan and Melton, who would work together all the time on the scripts. Yeah, so I thought they did Saw 4, 5, 6, and the final. And I thought 4 was good. I liked 4. 5 I thought was terrible. Probably the worst of all of them. I was really mad that I paid to see it in the theater. I was pissed. 6 I thought was not great, but better than 5. And then 7 was just, But I felt, I don't know. I'll read more and then I'll tell you about my more feelings on the collector. I think it was delayed to 2021. Okay, so the collected should be in 2021. Got it. All right. According to IMDb, as of June 2020, it was still in post-production. Okay. Well, at least they've shot stuff. The ending was stupid. The collector was very Saw-like with the traps. Yes. So, John, to that point, I agree with the end being stupid. Well, no, there's stuff I liked about the end. I like the aspect that Arkin gets taken and he gets put in the box at the end. But what I don't like is, what is really the point of that stupid box? I understand that, like, he puts them in there and they're the bait. But, like, that doesn't make any sense. It's a dumb concept to have a person as bait. Because the whole movie, he's not using any bait. I guess maybe you're assuming that he did in order to capture the family at first. But that doesn't even make any sense because he doesn't need it. I just, the whole concept of the box is, like, it's a good initial concept to work into a film, but the way it's worked in is just like it's thrown in, like lazily put in there. So yeah, I don't like the box thing is dumb. But yeah. But I do need to tell you that this is very interesting. When I was doing my research, I found out the script that Dunstan and Melton did for the collector, the initial script, was pitched as a prequel to the Saw franchise. Now that's why the film seems very Saw-like. And after I read that, I was like, now I'm interested to know if they had greenlit it to be a sequel to the Saw franchise, how they would have actually incorporated that into the overall story. Because there are definitely ways that could have been done. It's just very curious about that. I would like to talk to Dunstan and Melton about that. When I watched the first movie and they were like, he collects people, I was like, this is kind of lame. But in the second movie, when they showed his displays, I was like, that's kind of cool. Yeah, I do remember, Paul, the kind of backstory on the collector getting more rich and more interesting in the collection. And I like the character of the collector. He's menacing. He looks good, scary. I mean, like creepy, and the whole concept of him basically taking something like bug collecting, entomology, and like mounting insects after they're dead and stuff like that, and then taking that gigantic leap to doing that with people. Basically, it's a cool concept. It's a good idea. But now that I've talked about that, I should let you guys know that, full disclosure, I used to be into entomology when I was in middle school, high school. I was in 4-H, and I was the president of the entomology club for a while, and I had a very large insect collection that won awards in my state of Maryland at the 4-H farm fairs. Um, so super nerd. I just watched the Saw series for the gore, nothing more. Same as the later Hellraiser series. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, John. The reason to watch the Saw films after the first one is to see what interesting traps they come up with. And I think that's one of the other reasons that I wasn't big on the Collector is that knowing it's by the same people who did a bunch of the Saw films or wrote the scripts for a bunch of the Saw films, the I felt like they could have done a lot better with the traps. Like a lot better with the traps because they're not that interesting or inventive. They seem pretty basic and dumb. But also, how does the Collector have all the time to set up those traps in the house in the film when he wasn't even in there that long in order to set up all that stuff? It just seems very unrealistic, very unrealistic, and I don't know, it just doesn't jive. Yes, Collector heavily inspired by Saw. Yeah, Paul, for sure. Our hero was running out with the little girl. Then, for some reason, he decided to jump in front of the police cars. That's true. That's true, John. It's just like I don't. Yeah, there's a decent amount of stuff in the film that's just kind of like it just happens, and you're just like, okay, it doesn't really make sense, but all right. Scene when Arkin shoves his arm through the planks and gets caught on the razors. Ouch! I hate shit like that. Yeah, that was kind of rough. And they keep like showing it like up close. Yeah, it's rough. The boarded up window, yeah. Remember being like, oh shit, now he's going to die. And why were there lines of police cars and ambulance flying to get there? All of that based on 911 call where no words were exchanged. That's a good point, John. That's another one of those things in the script of this film that's just like here just because like it seems it's everything is for convenience of just getting the scenes that they want or the traps that they want or the gore that they want out of the film. It doesn't actually make sense, events wise. There's a lot of that. And that is one of them. Like, yeah, why are there like all these police coming when they don't know the situation? How much time does it take to set up all those traps? Yep, exactly. I.e. bear traps. Yeah. Big of a moving van did it take to haul all that stuff? I know, right? Plus when? Like, that's the other thing is when was the Collector setting up all these traps? There wasn't that much time. I don't get it. There's woman gagging another woman's mouth in one pic. He must have now. Oh, he must have a sidekick. Huh. The club scene was crazy in the collection. Yeah. Yeah, the club scene in the collection. I remember that the most from that second film, for sure. What's a college paper on forensic entomology? Nice, John. I actually considered doing forensic entomology for college after I got out of high school, but I ended up not going that direction. But I heavily considered it. I could have done that though. Oh, what's up? Tightweight, what's up, man? Really enjoyed the Collector series. Oh, cool. I haven't seen Ichi yet. I found it at my Goodwill in the clear blood bag edition, but it was all sticky in the bag. I left it. Yeah, I don't blame you on that one. Tightweight. We already talked about Ichi, so you popped in at the right time. We are talking about the Collector at the moment. So since you're a fan, give us your thoughts. Yeah, check the pics from the collected. I can do that. I'll do that later. So, okay, I did have some other stuff to say about the Collector. I think I aired all my grievances about the film. I don't think I'd watch it again, honestly. It's just not that interesting to me. Oh, here's one of the other things. Going back to the traps, in addition to like them not being as interesting or inspired as the saw traps, and how did he have all that time to set them up, and how did he get all the stuff there? The trap where the girl sets it off, and she gets like flung across the room into the spikes that he put on the wall in the room with the projector. How was she thrown that high in the air? Because two things about that scene. One, the trap goes off and happens so quickly that I couldn't really see what was going on. And two, it's not possible for whatever trap he set up to throw her like that. It's just not possible to lift her off the ground like that and throw her up as high as she was. It's just... also a pic of Arkin in cuffs, cuffed to a table. It's been a while since I watched it, but I love the booby trap angles. Sure, Tightweight, sure. Oh, okay. Paul, you were just about to mention that. Okay, got it. We're on the same page then with this stuff. Definitely. But the other thing is this. Was there a trap in, like, every room, at least? Because it kind of seemed that way. I mean, I love the idea of the traps. Like, I was into the Saw franchise, and I saw every film in the Saw franchise because I thought the traps were cool. Like John was saying, like, he was in it for the gore. He was in it for the kills. You know, me too. I wanted to see what these traps would end up being. And it's fun for that reason. So I like that aspect of the collector and the collection. But I don't think I could watch the collector again just because, I don't know, it just feels amateurish and all the other grievances I threw out there. Some of the traps were very inventive and brutal. I know some of it was unbelievable, but so was some of the Saw stuff. No, that's true, Tightweight. You're very, yeah, you're onto something with that for sure. But, it's just a situation of this came out after there were some Saw films, and it's by the people who wrote some of the scripts for Saw. So you would think, or at least I would think, that they would be more inventive. They would be more interesting with the traps because of that. Now, maybe that's not the case, though, because they wanted it to be a little more realistic for the concept of the collector, that, you know, the guy who's doing it is just showing up as like an exterminator, so he can't, you know, he doesn't have a place to set all this stuff up in and then put people in that place. He has to take these things with him and then set them up in the houses. So I guess that's kind of a part of it. Whereas, you know, Jigsaw in the Saw films, he had like warehouses and then would set up the traps and then put people into the traps. So yeah, I mean, I guess that could account for that, I guess. It's just a dumb fun movie. Sure, yeah. Totally, Paul. One of those movies you turn your brain off. And maybe that's the big difference, because I remember the first time I watched The Collector liking it, but then this time I didn't like it nearly as much. And maybe the difference is that I was watching it just relaxing the first time, and this time around I was watching it to like really pay attention and really pick it apart and really suss things out with the storyline, and does this seem real? Does that not? Yeah. So, yeah. It's a good point about the dumb fun movie. Cheesy and fun for sure. Yeah. And sometimes you just need to watch movies that just help you turn your brain off. I won't be watching any further collector films. That's fine, John. If you really don't want to, that's fine. But I think the collection... Now, this is based off of me having seen it once some time ago. I think the collection is interesting. I will go back and watch it and confirm that, though. It's a great character. Wish it had a better director. Yes, I 100% agree with that, Paul. Yeah. Definitely. Correct me if I misremember, but didn't a lot of those kills suffer from shaky camera syndrome? Sure did, John. Yeah, and that's part of what I meant about, you know, very amateur-ish directing. Not so hot. The acid floor was crazy too, with the cat stuck in it. Yeah. Now, what was the acid though? Like it was sticky, but it was acid at the same time. Is that supposed to be like a real life thing, or was that some sort of like made up thing just for the film? Did you guys see part two? Yeah, Tight White. I've seen the collection. I've seen Collector and the collection, but I haven't seen the collection recently. So I remember some stuff about it, but not a lot. Made me sad because I have a cat. Oh, dude. Yeah, Paul. I hear you. Like, seeing cats be harmed and mistreated in films is tough for me. So that's why it's hard when I watch some Dario Argento films, because he hates cats, and you can tell that there are live cats that were mistreated on the set in some Argento films. It's tough. Inferno being one. Probably a major one. I may have missed this, but what was the motive to set up all those traps? John, don't think there's, not really a motive. I think the collector's he's just sick, sadisted, demented. That's what he likes to do, is the whole idea. You got to remember, when this came out, it was the torture porn era. And the torture porn era's focus, it was just all about brutality and killing and interesting kills and just how much gore and how intense they can make those gore scenes. It was very devoid of real story. Other than, like, well, I was going to say other than the first Saw film, but there really is not that much story to the first Saw film. It's just how they constructed it seems brilliant. The collection is dope AF. I'm going to rewatch it, Tight White. I remember enjoying it. I'm going to rewatch it. It was some sort of acid mixed with glue. Okay. But wouldn't you think, Paul, that then the acid would eat through the glue? I don't know. It's just another one of those things. I guess I got to just turn the brain off on that one. Yeah, the cat attack scene. Well, the cat attack scene is crazy in Inferno, Paul, but I hated that scene because you can tell those cats did not like that at all. Like, they literally had people off camera throwing live cats at a person. And you could tell the cats were not happy and pissed. I hate that scene. Hate it. I had the same kitty for 8 years, and that cat death scene was weak. I hear you, John. Collector failed miserably in being a torture film, at least for me. Yeah, I see it. I can see it. Yeah, it's a Acid scene was another brain dead scene. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I guess so we're kind of going to the collector is enjoyable as just watch the thing. No questions, don't think too hard, just watch it, and then when it's done, don't think about it when it's done. Just be done. I did like the reveal at the end of the film, though, when they showed the van. Because you didn't know where this dude came from initially, and then when you see that he rips the exterminator sticker off it, you're like, oh, he was at the house as one of the exterminators. And then I think he was the guy who was wearing the respirator mask in the beginning when Arkin was there doing his stuff. He was the guy he talked to when he had gone to the greenhouse and there was that wasp nest there, and then he went and told him about it. I think that was the guy. I looked up what that acid was, and it just says adhesive acid. Yeah. Totally made up is what that sounds like. So it must be glue mixed with acid. Yeah. I mean, that sounds like the best explanation at this point. Overall, the collector sucked worse than a cheap hooker. I didn't hate it that much, John, but I see why you would hate it that much. I do not fault you for disliking it that much. That's fine. I didn't dislike it that much, but, I thought I liked a lot of the concepts, and like I said, the character of the collector, I think, is very interesting and compelling. Is a good bad guy, basically. it's just there's a lot of execution stuff that didn't work for me. At one point, it was shopped as a prequel to the Saw franchise. Yeah, Tight White. I we talked about that a little bit earlier. You weren't on at that point, but yeah. Um, and I was saying at that time that I would want to talk to Melton and Dunstan and ask them what they would have done to actually incorporate it into the Saw story if it was greenlit to be a prequel to the Saw franchise, because that could have been interesting. Like, you could have done some interesting stuff with that. Hydrofluoric acid will burn through skin, glass, etc. So probably that mixed with glue. Okay, I'll believe it. Sure. Per collector logic, let's just go with it. Just go with it. Yeah. So two kind of foreshadowing things that I found interesting in the film. The very beginning, the way the film starts, it's a shot of the like a lamp post in the neighborhood with a bunch of bugs on the inside of it, which I felt like that was kind of a hint of who the collector would end up being, because insects in a contained thing, it's kind of signaling the collection of insects, like it'll be the collection of the people, but it also is signaling insects, like you have the exterminator come, and that's who the collector shows up as. So I like that, but then I also thought it was interesting when that part I talked about when Arkin goes to the greenhouse and he gets stung by one of the wasps, and there's the wasp nest right there. I kind of viewed that as like a foreshadowing of he's about to walk into a wasp's nest, in the sense of that booby-trapped house later on in the film. So that was interesting. On May 2nd, 2019, Josh Stewart tweeted that another sequel titled The Collected, stylized as The Collected, with the E being a 3. We gotta get away from those things. It's just dumb. Was happening along with a poster. I just found this info. I'm excited. Yeah, we talked about that a little bit, Tight White. I would definitely see it, but we don't know exactly when it's coming out. But Paul was saying it looks like 2021 probably, sometime. So, could be like a year from now, could be 6 months from now. Keep our eyes peeled. Scene with the boyfriend falling into the bear traps is a good one. Okay, yeah. Thanks for bringing that up, Paul, because I totally forgot to mention it. That was my favorite of the kill scenes. Or kill and or torture scenes. The bear trap one, for sure. Yeah, that was a good one. Arkin finds him in the second by going through a list of entomologists in the area. He was number 12. He must have crazy burns now. Yeah, no. Yeah. Number 12. Yeah, I gotta rewatch the collection now. I kind of wish I owned it, because then it'd be easy for me to access. I own the collector. I had bought it way back. I hadn't seen it when I bought it. I was in a phase for quite a while where I would just go into Best Buy and just like walk around and see a movie that looked interesting, read the back of it, and then just straight up buy it. That's where it came from. John, you didn't like the bear trap scene? I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. They gotta show how he escaped in the third. Okay, sure. We'll find out. Well, maybe we'll find out. I mean, I'm still not convinced that the film's actually going to happen. The third one. I'm still not convinced it's actually going to happen, guys. We'll see. We will see. I will say, though, watching The Collector made me want to rewatch Hostel and Hostel 2. Because that's another film that when I initially watched it, I remember enjoying. Actually, both of those films. But maybe when I go back and watch it now and like really look at it with a critical eye, maybe I don't like it as much. I don't know. I'll have to find out. It had promise, but like the rest of the film, it falls flat. Yeah, John. Yeah. Oh, you're a fan of Hostel, John? Just the first Hostel or both the Hostel films? I liked them both, from what I remember. But like I said, I got to revisit. Going back to the projector scene, I remember now it was strong metal wire that pulled so it could easily throw like that with some force. Wouldn't it have like gone into her or through her though with that amount of force if it was metal wire? Because that would I feel like that would go through skin pretty easily. I feel like it probably would have like cut through her. Just saying. RM, welcome RM, the review god. Who's the review god? Who? Is it you? Both with the first being the best. Okay, yeah. Hostel. I'm down with it. Didn't watch the third Hostel because no Eli Roth. Oh yeah, I didn't either. Yeah, I was like, Plus, what were they really gonna do at that point, Paul? Oh, the scene where the lady stepped in front of the train. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that. Do you know that that was actually a I don't know if I want to say homage, but kind of that scene was an homage to the film Suicide Club, which I'm sure you've probably seen. It's by Cian Sono. I think you've seen that, John. I think we've talked about that before briefly. The wire went on her wrist and through her fast so it can happen. Okay. I'll take your word for it, Paul. Look at this. IMDb DV gave it 6.4 out of 10. That's pretty freaking high for this type of movie. That's true. You're right, Tightweight. That is high. That is definitely high. Yeah, horror films in general on IMDb, horror films do not get good ratings. Even if they're good horror films. Unless it's something like The Shining or The Exorcist. Wrapped around her wrist. Got it, Paul. You my guy. Okay, cool. Thanks, RM. Mortuary Collection was a big letdown. You feel the same way. RM, I actually liked the Mortuary Collection. I liked the end of it. I thought the way it came together at the end was really good. I see why a lot of people don't like it because the stories kind of getting to the end are like you've seen them before. It's very familiar type stuff. They are a little bit blah, but and I felt that way until I got to the story that the girl tells, and then the finish with Montgomery Dark, revealing everything about the mortuary and him. That's what really pulled me into it and made me really like it. So I did like it. I enjoyed it. But I definitely see where people would not, for sure. I've seen Suicide Club at the beginning. A bunch of schoolgirls jump onto train tracks. Yeah, Paul. Well, and about with the Hostel films, not only was that scene an homage to Suicide Club by Cian Sono, but the Achilles tendon cutting scene was an homage to Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance by Chan-wook Park. Eli Roth is a known big fan of Japanese film. He's a huge Takashi Miike fan, by the way. And he actually even dressed up as Kakihara for one Halloween, and he dressed up as Takashi Miike for one Halloween. And he's friends with Miike. Actually, Miike shows up in the first Hostel? The first or the second Hostel, I can't remember. But he shows up in Hostel briefly, one of them. But yeah, there are a bunch of scenes from Hostel that are taken from Japanese films. Second story on Mortuary Collection was a big mistake to watch with my daughter. Yes, Tight White. Yes. I would. Yep. I could see that for sure. Awkward. To go back to Ichi, I wonder why most of the dialogue was in Japanese, but would sometimes switch to English. I didn't. Yeah, and I found myself finding that very odd as well, John. But it was just one character, though. It was the girl who tried to have a relationship with Kakihara, the one that then went on to pretend to be the girl who had been raped to Ichi, who he then ended up killing. It was only her. She was the only person who did it. And yeah, I I don't know the reason for that. But at the same time, like, Takashi Miike, he's not big into planning. I don't know if you know this about him, but from what I've read, he literally has quotes out there in interviews saying that on any given day, the way he shoots a scene or how he does a film is going to be different because he just goes with the flow, which is really interesting to me, especially because when I got deep into Asian cinema in general, my two favorite directors became Takashi Miike and Chan-wook Park. And they are polar opposites with the ways that they do films. Chan-wook Park is very, very meticulous about how he sets up every single shot, down to designs of, paper and wallpaper and carpeting and all sorts of stuff. He sets everything up precisely. He doesn't do a ton of films, and when he does a film, most of the time he's directing a script that he himself wrote. On the other hand, Miike, like he says in interviews, shows up and on any given day the scene's going to be different. The film's going to be done differently. It's just based on how he feels at that moment in time. He was pumping out films. Like I said, at one point he was doing 7 films a year. And then also I don't think he's ever written a script. Like, he directs only other people's stuff. So it's interesting. Let me see. RM. That was one of the better stories. I just expected more, I suppose. Suicide Club is good. Also, Battle Royale 2000 was awesome. Oh, 2000? Oh, or you mean Battle Royale that came out in the year 2000? Please clarify, RM. Because the original Battle Royale I've seen, really enjoy it. I need to do a review on that. Yeah, Suicide Club out. I own that, and I own Battle Royale. I should do reviews on both of those. I just need to hit foreign cinema a little bit more with these reviews. I will, trust me. Have you seen Lady Vengeance? Paul, don't get me started. I love the Revenge trilogy by Chan-wook Park. Old Boy, Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, Lady Vengeance. Amazing. I own those films. Love them. They're so great. They're all on Shudder now, I think, still. I think they're all still on Shudder. Masterpieces. I love those films, Paul. Love them. Tarantino was in one of his movies as well. Which one? Yeah, which one was he in? Tight White. I don't remember. Hostel. I traveled around Europe alone. I could have been a victim of such events. Yeah. And that's kind of the power of certain films like that, where when they feel like they hit close to home in a way or another, it makes them even more scary. Like with The Collector, it can be kind of scary because it takes the concept that's been used a lot in horror of you never know who's living next door, or you never know who's living in your neighborhood, and then take it a little bit outside and say you never know who you're hiring to come and do work on your house. And now that they have access to your house, what are they going to do? So, yeah. It becomes, you can feel it kind of. You're just like, ugh. Yeah, he was in Sukiyaki Western Django. Yes, that's accurate. Right. You got it. Thank you, Paul. The original for sure. Okay, got it, RM. Yeah. Big fan of Battle Royale. It's been a while since I watched it last, but I need to go back. I need to do that. Good one. Check out the Outrage movies, Brother, etc. Okay. I'll have to check those out, Paul. Do you guys think Gutterballs 2 will ever come out with Ryan Nichols being dead? I didn't see Gutterballs 1, Tight White, so couldn't tell you. Takeshi Kitano is the teacher in Battle Royale. Also check out Ichi with Takeshi Kitano. I own that film, Paul. It's a good one. I enjoy that. I went through a phase of like buying lots of Asian cinema. My go-tos were all the ones that were marked Tokyo Shock and Tartan Extreme. Asian Tartan Extreme. You need to see it right now. I gotcha. I gotcha, Tightweight. I mean, I feel that way since you brought Battle Royale up. I was just like, it popped in my head, and I was thinking, man, that like it's fun. It's a fun film. It's a good film, but it's a fun film too. I just remember the first time I watched it, just like being very interested to find out what everyone got in their packs that they had, like who's getting what weapon, and you're just like, oh, this person's got a crossbow, this person's got a shotgun, this person's got a frying pan. And wasn't one of them just like a flashlight? It's pretty funny. But yeah, I feel you. Gotta check it out now. So, all right. So, anything else on Ichi the Killer or the Collector? Lesson of the Evil. Okay. Yes. Lesson of the Evil. Yes, yes, yes. So, I don't forget, Paul. I'm putting that in to my Netflix DVD queue, and I'll move it up. Right now, I have out Fear Farm. Uncle Pete had highly recommended it to me, so I'm going to check it out. Lesson of the Evil. I hope they have it, because sometimes with these foreign films, no, damn it, it's not on there. No, I'll have to look for it another way. But yeah, I'll get to it. I actually have a Takashi Miike book that I need to read through. It's called I think it's called Agitator, and it's this really thick book that goes through every single one of Miike's films up to a certain point when the book came out, and it has like breakdowns of like cinematically and themes and like everything, like deep dive on each one of the films. I need to go through that. Actually, now that I think about that, I should read the Ichi. I should just open it up and just read the Ichi the Killer one at the moment. Fear Farm was okay, good for a low budget, wouldn't be at the top of my list. Okay, thanks for that, RM. I'll know what to expect going in. Collector gets 2 shaky cam killings out of 5. Very shaky cam killings, John. Ichi gets 4 fists down the open wide mouth out of 5. Which, by the way, John, I love that scene where he opens his mouth and catches the guy's fist in it. It looks so crazy. And then it looks awesome when he pulls the hand out and it's like all the flesh has been stripped and you see the bone and everything. Looked really good. Love that scene. Gutterballs is a must-see. It has the Guinness Book of Records for the most F-bombs. Alright, cool. All the characters are unlikable and the killer wears a bowling bag for a mask. Brutal and amazing practical kills. Well, that sold me. That sold me, Tightweight. I'm down. Check out Sun Scarred by Miike as well. I mean, honestly, Paul, at this point, I feel like I just need to just get caught up on every Miike I haven't seen. Although I know there are some really bad ones in the mix with his films. Because not everyone's a gem from him. I do know that. Can't remember. There was one that I had watched of his that I watched and I was like, I can't remember which one it was. I can't remember. But yeah. I recommend Fear Farm. Don't read the back of the DVD. Oh, don't worry, I won't. They give away one of the twists. Oh, really? Why would they do that? There's 2 twists and they are well done. Okay, cool. Thanks, Tightweight. Yeah, I don't like watching trailers anymore. I was in a big phase at one point of watching trailers to get excited for films like many years ago. But then I just got to a point where I'm like, I just want to experience the film without knowing anything ahead of time. Because they give away a lot. And one of the things, like, this ties into something recently that I was kind of a bit peeved about, which is I got a screener copy of Blood Vessel, which is the film that Shudder just put onto their streaming service back on Thursday. Is that the one? Yes. Okay, yeah, it was Blood Vessel on Thursday. Now, I went into it totally blind when I got it as a screener and did my review on it. You don't know what's on the vessel and I'm not going to spoil it if you haven't seen what they released, but you don't know what's going on the boat that they get onto, okay, until maybe about halfway through or something. And the reveal of it is cool. Probably one of the best parts of the film. Now, the image that they put out on social media promoting Blood Vessel shows what you see when it reveals what's on the ship, or what the evil is on the ship. Why would you do that? It ruins it. It ruins the experience. I hate that. One of my favorite Japanese movies the last couple of years is Confessions. Kohukaku, 2010. Not horror, but definitely check it out. Okay, cool. Thank you for that, Paul. And I will throw back at you Last Life in the Universe. Also not horror at all. Actually, not a whole lot happens in the film, but it's beautiful. In many ways, it's beautiful. And that's a fusion film. It's Japanese, American, and Thai. Very good film. And Tadanobu Asano is in it. Love it. Haven't seen Gutterballs. I was going to watch The Dark and the Wicked tonight, but Gutterballs will be on tap. Cool. Awesome. Very nice, then. Was doing a secondary review of it on a food review recently, and I read the back out loud and completely spoiled it. That sucks. Tight weight. Gutterballs on Amazon Prime. Okay, cool. Yes. Okay. So yeah, we're winding down here, and I'm gonna end up ending the stream in a few minutes here. So yes, thank you, John. So this is what we're gonna do. John knows about this because he was on first. We're going to do, for the next one, which will be in 2 Saturdays. I'll give you the date. We're not gonna do a live stream. We're gonna do something different. So here's how it's gonna work, and I'll put out a video for it. This coming Friday. Saturday, November 21st at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Instead of doing a live stream, we're going to try a watch party. We're going to do a movie watch party. What you're going to need to do is get the Scener extension for Google Chrome. And I'll put it in the chat how it's spelled, because when you say it, you don't necessarily know. Scener. Okay, so get Scener extension for Google Chrome. Create an account for it. And then I will set up a watch party room. I think they're kind of called rooms that you do. And we will watch a movie. So right now we can kind of pick one that we're going to do. And then it'll kind of be up to you how you want to do things. So from the standpoint of, you can show up to the watch party not having watched the movie already, and then just watch it then for the first time, and we'll talk about it as the movie plays out. Or you can watch it ahead of time, come with notes, and while we watch it, kind of point things out and throw things out. I'm going to do the second of those. You can feel free to do it however you want. Another thing I want to bring up is, through Scener, you can enable your camera and your microphone. But there's also a typing chat area, much like the live stream. So choose whatever you want. If you want to be on camera and you want to be heard through your microphone, perfect. Put those on. We'll do it that way. But if you prefer not to do any of those things, you can turn those things off and just do, typing in the chat. And that's fine. It's whatever you're comfortable with. So let's try this. And this will be the first time. We'll see if it works. We'll see if we like it a lot. And maybe we switch to not really doing these live streams like this anymore, but just instead doing the watch parties. Now, because it's going to be a watch party, we're just going to do one film, because it's going to take a while, because we're going to watch the whole film. So if you guys want, what streaming services do people have? Well, let me make this a little more simple. Do all of you have Shudder, the Shudder streaming service? Because Shudder just announced this week that they are compatible with Scener now. That just happened. I tested it out. Okay, I might do it with Cam. What are we watching? because if you guys do have Shudder, then we can go ahead and talk about what we'll watch. The other thing to know about when you sign into Scener, you have to have an account for that streaming service. So when you sign in and you try to get into the watch party that I'm going to set up, you will have to have an account that you'll sign into. So, I mean, it makes sense. So, okay. So it looks like most people have Shudder. Okay, good. So let's choose from Shudder. And the other thing is there will need to be a code that I will have to send out so that you guys can get into it, because I'm gonna have it as a private watch party, at least at first. Maybe we'll open it up to the public down the road, but we're just gonna do it as private for now. So I'll need to send you guys the code. So I'm gonna put my email address in the chat, and send me, if you're interested in doing it, send me an email with your email address that you want me to send the code to. Then I will send it probably about 10 minutes before we're going to start the watch party. So about 6:50, I'll send an email to everyone who sent me their email address with the code to get into our watch party room. Make sure I spelled that out properly. Yes, okay, all good. Oh, there's a... Awesome, John. John just said there's a Scener tutorial on YouTube. Perfect. That's great. It's pretty user-friendly once you get in there, too. It's not overly complicated. I already did, like, a test run with it with my buddy Rich, so it works. So let me look through what movies are on Shudder. Or if you guys have ideas, you know what some of the stuff that's on Shudder at the moment, and you want to throw out some ideas right now, go ahead. Salem's Lot just showed up on there. Urban Legend. I've not seen Urban Legend. I can look off my list too. There's a bunch of Vincent Price films on there if people want to do that. I heard One Dark Night is a good film. That's on there. It's a 1983 film. Heard good things about that one. Mortuary is on there, which I've heard is solid. The Evil, I've been meaning to watch that one. The Love Witch, that's another one I've heard good things about. You've seen the first Urban Legend, Paul? I actually haven't seen it. So Turkey Shoot is still on there. That's one I've been interested in seeing. Amsterdammed, I've heard, is a good one. That's on there at the moment. George A. Romero's Season of the Witch, I've been meaning to get to. The Wailing is on there. I've heard good things. I haven't seen it. Terrified. I've heard good things. Haven't seen it yet. It's a lot of good stuff on there. What are you guys interested in? Or even if it's not a particular title, maybe just give me a type, like a subgenre, and say, I'm feeling something like this. Why don't we do some research, and when you post your video, we can make suggestions. Well, when I put up the video, I want to be able to tell people what the film's going to be. That way people can watch it ahead of time if they want to and bring notes. Or, I mean, I can just pick one, honestly. Let's look at browse. I look at browse and go like way back. I really wish they had the reflecting skin on Shudder. That's a movie I want to watch. Again. And my Shudder app just closed on me. Out of nowhere. Hate that. Hate it. Okay, here we go. I think I was moving too fast for it. Random acts of violence. I could do that. If people want that, we could do that one. I have seen the series Slasher. The first 2 seasons of Slasher I've seen, Paul. I enjoyed them. I thought they were solid. I need to see the 3rd. I just don't want to watch something I just watched if possible. It might be hard though. House of a Thousand Corpses. I could do that. I could do that, John, because I've actually been meaning to do a review for House of a Thousand Corpses. So that's not a bad choice. That wouldn't be a bad choice. So, I just saw Random Acts of Violence last week. Okay. I'm not huge on Random Acts of Violence. I didn't really enjoy the movie that much. Sorry to say. Okay. Okay, so here's what we'll do. Okay. Random Acts concept was good, but like Carlin said, poor script. Yeah. Yes. That's yep. That's my feelings on it. Thanks for remembering how I put it, Paul. Totally right. Okay, how about this? Okay, I have the input from you guys. I'll just pick one off of Shutter, and I'll say it in the video what we're gonna end up doing, and that'll be out on Friday. This coming Friday, I'll have the video up announcing what we're gonna do for Scener. So don't forget, my email is in the chat. Send me your email address if you want to be included in the watch party, and I think this is gonna be a really good time. I think the watch party is gonna be super fun. So yeah, let's do it. We can do Host 2020. Host would be a good one. I'll think about it. Host could be fun. I literally just watched it a few weeks ago, but I would watch it again. No problem. Yeah, and yeah, it's not super long either. Oh, you hated Host, John. Well, I'll figure it out. Okay. Anyway, I have some input. I'll pick something. I'll make it decent. Don't worry, you guys. Okay, I'm gonna end up signing off here, but thank you guys very much for showing up and talking things out about the. I don't remember what I was about to say. The Collector and Ichi the Killer. I'm getting tired at this point. I had a long day today. I was out driving around and stuff. All right. Yep. Take it easy, you guys. Thanks once again. Until next time, keep it brutal.